Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the It's Needed podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement in the community. It's your boy Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Barriers United, and I'm joined by the light-skinned wonder himself, Mr. Oh No, It's the Popo. What's up, brother?
You know, I'm just over here with this super strong internet connection. That's what I'm over here doing. How about you, brother? How you doing over there?
Hey, my internet connection is driven by the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ himself, bro.
My goodness.
I got the strongest of the strongest, the most potent of the potent, bro.
Just so everybody know, forever, like, I mean, this might go back to like the beginning of the podcast. We've always had issues with like internet connections. So like we started off recording through Facebook, and then we switched over to Skype, and now I'm recording like audio on my end, and I'm sending it to the Savage, and he's chopping it up and working his magic. So I done went out yesterday, and I was on a mission. I had to go to like 4 different stores. I had to go to Target. I had to go to Best Buy, bless you, brother. I had to go to Apple, and where else? I think that might have been it. So 3 stores. I got an Ethernet cable. Oh, AT&T, because I had to like up my internet speed. Hey, I tripled my internet speed. I'm hardwired into the modem. I'm like rocking, and we still got poor connection. So I had to expose my man Ryan, aka Mr. Poor Connection in Cali, man.
Hey, but here's the thing though, and this is what you guys don't know, is the cable that he got. You know, well, let me back up. So anytime you buy something, what's the first thing you do? Savage, what's the first thing you do? Anytime you buy something, bro, like say you online and you want to buy something, what's the first thing you gonna do? Check reviews. Anytime you go look at a podcast, first thing you gonna do is what? Check the reviews.
Oh, we got good reviews.
so my boy AJ's cord that he got. Hey, how many reviews?
The converter.
How many reviews your converter got, dog?
It's got like I want to say like close to like 62 on like Apple's website, but it's sold by, it's a Belkin, but Apple sells it because Apple don't make the Ethernet to USB-C. It's got 1.5 stars, man.
1.5. My goodness, 1.5.
Yeah, they say
1.5. I don't even download games on my phone that got 1.5 stars, bro. You need to be at least working with at least 4 stars, bro. At least if I'm going, read the bio about your game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
1.5,
bro. That's at the bottom. Like that don't even come up. So
yeah. So if I lose connection, you got to call and check up on me.
AJ has a ticking time bomb with that converter he got. One of the reviews was it overheats really quickly. Hey, how hot is your thing
all
right
the
now?
reviews said it overheats. It's hot. It's hot right now.
So
how you doing, brother?
So AJ's about to blow up over there. Oh, did you see speaking of blow up, did you see my video yesterday about the news reporter in Wichita, Kansas, where the guy said he was about to blow up a bathroom? So he said, hey, I need all you guys to get out because I'm finna to blow it up. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. I seen the video you posted where the officer got tased too. Now that was funny.
Oh, bro. So Daniels actually posted that one, bro. I watched that.
Oh,
I watched that video
goodness.
like 20 times, bro. Man, that video was hilarious. My man, like the officer was like, I think he really was took off guard. Like, oh shoot, I was not expecting this, bro.
Oh, he was 100% caught. Hey, you've been killing it with the videos, by the way, man. You've been killing it.
What video are you talking about?
The most recent one was the talking about like the school resource officers and knowing like why you do what you do.
Oh,
putting out some powerful content, man.
Hey, man,
powerful stuff.
Hey, well, when you host a powerful conference, let's talk
about that.
You get motivated. Speaking of conference, man, this is our first podcast after post conference, so we got to do our post game recap. So what did you think about the conference, bro? Mind blowing.
I mean, the amount of people we had at the conference, the people that we had at the conference, not to mention, Gordon Graham, Eric Thomas, like us up there doing our thing, Jorge. I mean, just everybody, man. Like the breakout sessions were crazy. It was powerful. Like the most powerful part to me, at least, was it wasn't a religious event, but God was in the room like crazy. Like you could just feel God like everywhere you went. People were praying. People were coming up to us wanting to pray like with us and for us. We had officers and convicted felons praying together. Like it was amazing, man. Like it was dope.
It's funny you bring that up because yeah, you're right. It was not a religious event at all, and yet that's what happened. And so something, you just know that there's a deeper work going on. And if I tell you guys my personal opinion of the conference, it's gonna be biased, obviously, because we're the ones that hosted the conference. But I've been getting nothing but tremendous feedback from everybody, from chiefs of police, from the city manager of Riverside. I mean, ET hit me up the same day and was like, fire. Like the event was fire. The girl that does his booking and everything, she, I was talking to her, just telling her thank you for, helping us out when it came to booking all of his stuff. And she was like, yeah, I heard the event was fire. So, it was just, we've been getting the reviews have just been crazy. And I think people were just saying like, they weren't, I don't want to say they weren't expecting that, but they weren't expecting it. You know what I mean? Because it's our first conference. Like, anytime you host your first conference, like, you don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? An empty room, things being bootleg, a ugly facility or a dirty facility. You just don't know what to expect. But at our conference, it was literally first class on every level. The facility, shout out to the Riverside Convention Center. The facility was amazing. It was clean. The employees were amazing. They were very on it. The food I heard was phenomenal, bro. Like, I didn't even eat the food. Usually for me on game days, I don't eat. You know what I mean? And so that was game day for me, so I didn't eat nothing. But people kept coming up to me saying, man, the food was phenomenal. Like my boys were like, hey, bro, I had like 2 or 3 pieces of cheesecake at the lunch break. I heard that cheesecake was fire.
Because we ain't getting none.
Yeah, dog.
I wouldn't know, brother.
Yeah, I wouldn't know either. I wouldn't know either. And then I heard the breakfast, like somebody hit me up and was like, man, like, I ate breakfast before because, I was expecting that it just to be like some little finger foods when I showed up, and I didn't want to be hungry the first hour. And he was like, man, when I showed up and saw sausage and bacon and French toast, I was like, oh, man, I played myself.
I did get some bacon and like a croissant or something as soon as I got there, but the rest of the day was a wash as far as food went. But
man, so people were talking about the food, and then they were talking about, oh man, our keynote speakers, man. Shout out to Gordon Graham. Shout out to ET. It's so funny. So Gordon is a great friend of mine. Like, he's one of my mentors. I go to Gordon's house probably about once a month, just to kind of just get caught up with them. And he's my mentor, so I'm attached to his hip, just trying to take as many nuggets as I can. And just side note, if you're out there and you want to have success on another level, find you a mentor. I got plenty of mentors. I got a mentor in my business life. I got a mentor in my spiritual life. I got a mentor in my family life. But find you a mentor, because a mentor will help you take you to the next level. So that was a side note. But shout out to Gordon. It's so funny when he gets on stage. When you look at Gordon, you just look at him, and I'm a transparent guy, and I love Gordon to death. But when you just look at Gordon, you're like, man, I'm about to be bored to death for about an hour. And this goes back to judging a book by its cover. And so I know Gordon is a dynamic speaker. He's been a friend of mine for almost 5 years now. And so I know how good he is. But I always look at the faces in the room when we're getting ready to start, because people just like, they start, putting their hand on their face like, oh my goodness, about to be a long hour. And people were even coming up to me saying, like, before he started, I was thinking like, man, this is going to be a long 90 minutes, because they were looking at the program. And my man Gordon went up there and killed it. I mean, and it was funny too, because during his presentation, he was like, people at the federal level, you're stupid. People at the state level, you're stupid. People at the local level, you're stupid. We keep making stupid mistakes.
Everybody's stupid.
He was calling everybody stupid, and this one lady was like, that works for the school district. She was like, I never felt so inspired to be called stupid so many times. I was like, they were like,
87 times.
Legit.
Like, man.
Yeah. My man Gordon just went in. He set the stage for the conference, talking about risk management and why we're in certain positions that we are now, because he was talking about gray rhinos and black swans. Those are 2 books.
Yep.
And so so Gordon was just phenomenal. And then after Gordon, we had our breakout session. Actually, me back up. Then we had before Gordon, we had Dr. White, which Dr. White is the county superintendent of Riverside County of Education, and she came up there. She had her own poem. Like, she wrote a poem specifically for It's Needed. And
Yeah.
when I say she dropped the mic, she dropped the mic. I think one of her last lines was like something to the effect of, "We need to keep doing what we're doing, so that way it's needed won't be needed anymore," or something like that. I was like, wow, like that was deep. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember about halfway through her poem looking over at you, and we had the same exact facial expression of like just surprise and awe. We were just like, is this really happening right now? I mean, she literally dropped the mic after, like, man, yeah, we have to, if we have that saved somewhere, like, we have to, like, post that, see if we are, or have her redo it. Like, that was fire.
Yeah, did we record that, Billy? Oh man, that would be dope. If somebody's got, I wonder if somebody recorded it. But
Somebody has to.
yeah, that was so, and it's funny too because not to be cocky or arrogant or anything like that, but I would say I'm a pretty decent speaker. But to share the stage with the greatest speakers, it really put me in a place of like, man, you got a long way to go, brother. Like a long way. Like it was humbling for me. Because I was like, usually when I go to people, when I go to places and speak, people really like, the content that I give or whatever. But when you share the stage with the greatest speakers, man, that's like a humbling experience, man. So
yes, bro. Yes, bro. And I said it during the special edition podcast that we recorded there. Like, I've stood on some historic stages before. And I've been nervous one other time on stage, and that was the first time I ever spoke. And when I first got on that stage, boy, I was nervous. It might have had something to do with me having like 4 hours of sleep, but whatever. We'll talk about that later.
Oh, here we go.
But yeah, you're right, man. You're right, man. I mean, you share the stage with people like that, like it only inspires you to do better and be better.
Oh yeah, man. And what the other thing that so fast forward, so you got E.T., you got Dr. White goes, E.T. goes. No, you got Dr. White that goes, you got Gordon that goes, and then they went to their first breakouts. And I know you and I, we didn't get a chance to make it out to the breakouts, but I heard some of our breakouts killed it. Like I heard some of our breakouts had standing room only. Jason Lehman being one of them. I got nothing but really good feedback from his breakout. His is a Why You Stop Me, so shout out to him for coming out and doing that. But I heard his breakout was phenomenal. Shout out to Tamron Olden. From law enforcement social media. I heard she killed it. She had standing room only.
Oh they were bringing the chairs for that one.
Yeah, man. Shout out to not law enforcement social, but my boy KD from St. Louis. I heard his stuff. I mean, people killed it. Shout out to Jorge. Jorge. Did you hear what happened in Jorge's?
Nah.
Yeah, Jorge, obviously he tells his story, and I've seen this before, but I'm so mad I didn't get to see it in person. But Jorge, man, like, he tells his story, and then at the end of his presentation, man, he stood up out of his wheelchair and walked with his walker. Man, people were crying coming out of Jorge.
I just got goosebumps when you said that, man.
People were crying.
I'm mad I left.
Yeah, man, people were crying.
Because I stopped by there for about, 15 minutes.
Oh, did you? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
People were crying coming out of Jorge's breakout session, man. So, and then also shout out to all of our volunteers that came out. I mean, we had volunteers.
Yes.
We had volunteers drive out from Sacramento. We have volunteers drive out from Arizona,
San Diego. We have volunteers from all over. So shout out to you guys. Man, you guys are forever be on our team if you want to. So if you guys listen to this podcast, which I'm sure you do. Shout out to you guys, every single one of you guys. You guys will forever be on our team if you guys want to. So thank you for that. Hands down.
So we had them, and then after that, E.T. came in right after the lunch hour and just blew the house down. Like, man, people were just in there like in awestruck. Like, wow. Like, my man E.T. was like, how many of you guys can honestly say you're going 120 5 days a week? And he went around the room. No hands. He was like, how many people can say you're going 110? How many people say they're giving 100? Got all the way down to 50%. He was putting people in their places. And he's talking to chiefs of police, city managers, mayors, superintendents. He's talking to everybody. And so when E.T. got off that stage, man, people were feeling inspired, man. Like, he just literally blew the house down. And so, again, going back to, it's funny. and I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of motivation right now. So I've gone to a lot of different conferences, conferences for everything. Obviously, that's a part of our job description. And one of my goals and passions has always been to be a keynote speaker at a conference. And so I would reach out to people and say, hey man, I want to be a keynote, and people don't really be trying to give me the time of day. And so I'm like, all right, whatever. So then a year ago, I went to ET's conference in St. Louis. That's actually where I met AJ. So AJ and I just approached our 1 year since we've been homies. But you would think that we've been homies since, we were born. But,
grade school, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a year. But anyways, I went to ET's conference, and to think a year later, I wanted the own keynotes at my own conference, and I got some of the greatest speaking at our conference. So I tell you guys that to say this is like, every single one of you guys, and I've said this before, possesses a gift, because we live in the greatest country on this earth, the United States of America. You are equipped with opportunity here that don't exist in other countries. We have the opportunity to go out and make our own, pave the way for our own life, and so sometimes we get so bogged down by, corruption or things that happen in the United States. You got to realize, like, at the end of the day, there's human nature that exists, and human nature is always going to do some shady things. But we are still afforded the opportunity in the United States of America to go out and accomplish what we want to. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to take a detour. Yes, our country at one point in time was founded on slavery and things like that. But as a black man, I stand before you today and tell you that regardless of the slavery that once existed in our country, I am still afforded the opportunity to go out, run my own business, be a police officer, make my own difference, be the change that I want to see, and nobody has prevented me from doing that. I may have faced opposition, but nobody has prevented me from doing that. So if you're a minority right out there right now, and you don't like you don't like racism, you don't like racial biases, do not let that stop you from doing what you want to do. You cannot let that be an excuse of why you don't go out there and do what you want to do. Because if you say, oh, it's because of this or it's because of that, it's an excuse. Because I'm living proof.
100%.
I am living proof. AJ's living proof. ET is living proof. Jorge is living proof that you can go out there and be the change that you want to see. So we can't always chalk things up to racism. Now, don't get my words twisted. I'm not saying that racism does not exist. I just sat here yesterday and looked at a shirt that somebody was saying that it was a white guy wearing a shirt that said nigger, and it said, I can wear this shirt because my shirt is black. So don't get me wrong. Racism does exist, but racism will not prevent you from accomplishing what you want to accomplish, because you possess all the tools necessary to go out and do it in one of the greatest countries that exists. So that's my soapbox for a minute.
Hey, hands down. And that's one of the reasons why I respect E.T. so much. And he even touched on it at the conference. He said, yes, there's racism in America. Yes, people have the upper hand, but that don't got nothing to do with me. I'm still going to be a millionaire, and I'm still going to be the number one motivational speaker in the world. Like don't let that hold you back. Like, there's going to be people who want to be anchors in your life and hurdles in your life and obstacles. Like, push through that. That ain't got nothing to do with you. What people are saying about you ain't got nothing to do with you. Like, keep it moving, keep it pushing. Like, if people want to hate on you because of the color of your skin, because you're whatever, like, let them use that as motivation. Throw that fuel on that fire and let it burn. Look, don't turn this into a motivational podcast. We can do this all day.
You know me. I'm trying to. ET got me inspired, man, and that's what I was gonna get at. So the funny thing is, ET said, like, look, like, I've been consistent. Like, a lot of people are just seeing my results now, and they're saying, like, man, I want to get to where he's at, and they think that they can do it overnight. Like, E.T.'s like, man, I've been doing this since I was 19 years old. He was like, I'm going to be 50 in 2 years. He was like, but one thing that I did week in, week out was I always was consistent, man. He was like, I did Thank God It's Monday every single week, and it was consistency. He was like, I had a couple of videos that went viral, but that wasn't it that blew me up. What blew me up was my consistency. And what also blew me up was my commitment to be relevant. You got to stay relevant. And so, that's why we do what we do on this podcast, the It's Needed podcast, is because we know that there's a necessity to stay relevant, which is why we talk about a lot of the current events that we do. And so it was just phenomenal. So ET blew it down. And then after ET blew it down, we had our last breakout speakers. which also
Yep.
killed it. And then and man, it was just a phenomenal. Man, I'm still on cloud nine. Almost 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
I'm still, or a week and a
Yeah.
half later, I'm still on cloud nine, man. And to say that God did not leave His footprint on that event would be an understatement, because that was an event ran by God. There's no way that we can
Oh,
pack out
hands
a
down.
house. And I don't know if it was you that said it or somebody else that said it, but not only did we just pack a house out, but it was the people that we packed it with.
Right.
And I've gone over all the people that were there, but man, when you have former convicts, like AJ said, praying with chiefs of police, and you got high school students talking about
Right.
this is the best conference they've ever been to, and they there with
Right.
nothing but adults, which traditionally you would think that would be a boring event for them. Oh man, like
Right.
that's nothing but God, man. So
Right.
we will do the conference again. If anything has motivated us to maybe talk about doing multiple conferences a year. We're talking about
Yeah.
doing, so we got some things up our sleeve. I don't want to give y'all all of our tricks of the trade, but
Yeah, just stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We will be coming back with more. So that was not the end of it. So
Yeah,
you got
for
anything else
sure.
on that conference, AJ?
I don't, brother. I don't, man. You nailed it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to these couple of secrets we got up our sleeves.
yeah, froze. I didn't hear not one
There-
word you said, bro.
There go his connection again. Nah, I
here
said
we
I
go.
don't, man. You nailed it.
Oh, okay, cool, man. So, and let's get into Officer Down Memorial real quick, AJ, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, so the last podcast we did was July 28th, and the number that we came in was 68. As of today, we're coming in at 71. So we're looking at 3 officers, and something that I want to do from here on out for every podcast is really recognize these officers. So we had an officer who died in LAPD by gunfire on the 27th of July, and he was a police officer, Juan Diaz. On the 1st of this month, we had a correctional officer, Pedro Rodriguez Mateo. He died by an assault, and he worked for the Puerto Rico Corrections Department. And then on the 7th of this month, we also had another correctional administrator, actually, Deborah Johnson, who worked for the Tennessee Department of Corrections, and she died from assault. So something I want to do is just read those names. A lot of times when things like this happens, they talk about the suspects more than they do the true victims, and those are the ones whose pictures are plastered everywhere. Those are the names that are almost forever remembered. So I want you to hear these names, and I want you to realize that these are people who lost their lives doing their jobs every single podcast.
So my heart goes out to the families of those people that lost their life. Again, like I always say, I can't imagine, my wife and kids, doing this on their own without me. You know what I mean? So
Right.
So and there's families out there today that are now doing it on their own because somebody else was reckless or careless with what they perceive to be, one of the most precious things in life, which is life. And so
Right.
So sorry, shout out to those families and my condolences to you. And if you guys ever need anything, somebody that needs something, please just reach out to us. One of the things that as
Definitely.
we have success as an organization, our success obviously is we're committed to help you out in any way we can. So just reach out to us if you ever need some resources. If there's anything we can do, just reach out to us and we'll try to get back to you.
Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to do too real quick before we move forward is I did want to give my boy Justin a shout out. Justin, he lives out this way in Southern California in Riverside area. My boy Justin created a brand called One Love IE, or which stands for One Love Inland Empire, which is the area that I'm from. But it also stands for One Love in Everything. And so if you'll notice, I'm wearing one of his hats today. Justin is doing some major work in the community. He's not a police officer. My man created his clothing brand, and the idea behind it is that like it stands for, there's one love in everything, and it's almost similar to what the work we're doing with BBU and It's Needed, but just from a lifestyle standpoint, and just really recognizing that local people can be heroes too. You don't always have to be a celebrity. You don't always have to be a Fortune 500 business owner. you can be a local person and be a hero as well. And so, man, shout out
Yeah.
to him, man. He was at our conference as well with the vendor table. That's why I'm rocking his hat. And not only is his hat dope, but I mean he's also sponsored. They have New Era accounts and everything like that. So my man is doing some crazy good things. So I'm not just rocking his hat because I'm trying to give him some shout out. I'm rocking his hat because his hat is dope. Oh, and my man
his
gave
hat's
me
stupid
some.
dope.
And he gave me some customized Nikes, which were my boy AJ still kind of salty about it, but it's all good, baby.
Oh, I'm big salty.
But they were dope, man. So shout out to you, Justin. So moving forward, what I want to do is I want to just briefly talk about some of the current events that have been going on, and then we're going to move into our topic of the day. We haven't had a topical discussion in a while, but some of the current events that have been going on. We recently had 2 active shooters last weekend, back to back. I think they both occurred within 13 hours. And so what I did actually was I made a post about why police officers will take people into custody that have just killed multiple people. One of the things that was trending online was, had that active shooter been a black person, they would have probably shot him immediately. And you know, there was a lot of good response to that, but at the same time, there was some negative response. And so one of the things I want to do is I want to address that on our podcast, because you know, this is a place where I can actually have extend my dialogue a little bit more on that topic. So you got to realize, when there's an active shooter that occurs, obviously the response by law enforcement is going to be very rapid, and it's going to have to be, we have to make decisions very quickly. However, what people don't realize is that it is not rare that an active shooter will surrender. I think a lot of times we often assume that an active shooter is just either going to, 1, take his life, or B, the police are going to kill him or should kill him. Now, I've talked about it before. You got to separate moral and ethical responsibility from policy at times. And the reason I say you have to separate them at times is because, you know, from a moral and ethical standpoint, if you ask me, if somebody goes and kills about 20 or 30 people, you know, the human side of me would say, hey, look, that dude deserves to die right now. Like I need to be judge and jury right now. Like, this dude needs to die, because he's obviously doesn't care about anybody else's life, so he needs to be put down right now. But from a legal and policy standpoint, if somebody surrenders, we cannot treat him any differently than anybody else that surrenders to him. And I mentioned this briefly on my breakdown of that. I had a buddy of mine who's he's a former military vet, or he's a military vet. And he said he did a lot of tours, in the Middle East. And he said it was surprising, but the amount of terrorists that would actually go out there and, basically try to die for the cause, a lot of them would back out at the last minute. So they would actually give them bogus detonators because they wanted to see if they were really about the cause. And more often than not, a lot of these guys would back out at the very end because they got scared. And so if they get scared in the Middle East from, taking their own life, what makes you think that people on the home front that, go out and do an active shooter aren't going to get scared to take their own life, or have somebody else try, suicide by cop? They're not going to get scared to do that. There's also a statistic, and I learned this in my crisis negotiation class, that people that are going to get ready to jump off of a bridge to kill themselves, the ones that actually survived, and I'm talking about the Golden Gate Bridge specifically, because that suicides occur off of that bridge all the time. The ones that actually survived it, I think they say, like, there's some crazy statistic out there. It's like about 95% of the people that said as soon as they jumped, they immediately regretted it. And then there's a lot of people that go up there and come down right away because they get scared. And so with that being said, it is not uncommon for people to surrender after doing an active shooter and just say, hey, I give up. And so the moment that person gives up, as a police officer, as hard as it is for me not to pull the trigger, that's one place that we got to say, hey, look, slow it down. We got to take this dude into custody like anybody else. And so I get what everybody's frustration is saying, and their frustration is that they believe that sometimes we don't take that same level of precaution when it comes to a person of color in our regular day-to-day job responsibility. And I get how you can see that. Is there truth behind it? Maybe, maybe not. But the thing what I was trying to get at is you can't compare those two situations. And the last thing I'm going to say before I turn it over to you, AJ, is that every situation is different. A lot of times
Yeah.
People like to categorize or classify us as being one and the same. Every situation that we respond to as police officers is different. And the reason why I say it's different is because every single situation that we deal with as officers is handled by different officers. So just the mere fact that it's a different officer handling that situation makes that situation different from every other situation we handle. So you can't lump us all in one situation and say, had that person been a black guy, they would have shot and killed him, as opposed to, had it been a white guy, we're going to take him into custody. You can't say that because those officers are different that are responding to that situation. So that was just one of the frustrating things for me, is like, hey, look, I understand the frustration out there that you may have in thinking that, but you also got to, like I always tell people, you always got to break things down by case law and policy. And if somebody, surrenders to us and we end up shooting this person, well, yeah, they're going to try to come after me and my family and take everything away from me because I essentially murdered somebody. So what's your thoughts on that, AJ?
Two things that I think about every single time that someone makes a statement like that, and they're in order. The first thing you have to understand is we have rules that we have to play by, right? And those rules are this. If you are actively trying to harm somebody, like take their lives, or cause serious physical harm to them, then we could do what we need to do to stop you from doing that. But the moment that you stop doing that, and we can no longer articulate that if we don't take deadly force, that you'll continue this behavior, we have to take you into custody, or we have to go down the use of force continuum, right? And we talked about that on a previous episode. The second thing to that is I know people are going to hear what I just said and automatically go, well, if he was black, y'all wouldn't be doing this. Or if he was Hispanic, y'all wouldn't be doing this. You have no idea if what you're saying is factual. You have no idea. There's no way to prove it, right? Like, we can't go back in time and change this person's race and then let it replay, right? And then go, oh, you know what? You were right. We can't. We just can't do that. So with that said, like, you have to understand that, like, what you're saying is not factual. Like, you don't know that. So keep those two things in mind, like, when you make statements like that.
And the other thing, too, to consider is, like, and like I said, I don't know the answer to this question, but it's just a hypothetical. Let's just say that the officers that took that guy into custody in El Paso, Texas, well, let's say the officers were black. Would their argument still stand up to say, like, hey, if he was black, they would have shot and killed him? You know what I mean? So, like, we can't always just bring it back to race, because oftentimes I think that sometimes people believe that the only people that do this job are just white officers. Like,
I know, and then go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So and people want to believe that police officers are racist, so much so that, like, every single thing that happens is racist, right? Like take my use of force, my most recent use of force. Like, people seen that and they were like, man, look at this white cop punching that black dude. And it's like, pause. Like, I'm biracial, bro. Like, and if you did your research, like, you would know who I truly am. But, like, you want this to exist so bad that you just have to spew it out. You have to spew it out. And once again, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. I'm not saying that there's not racist cops. Like, we've addressed that on almost every single podcast just to let y'all know who we are and what we stand for. But you have to understand, the moment that you start doing that and you automatically assume that that police officer did X, Y, and Z because of the suspect's race, is the moment that you start feeding into this negative stereotype and driving apart the division further and further and further.
Exactly. Like, and that's, you know, there's so many accounts, social media accounts out there, like Officers of Color, Minorities in Law Enforcement. There are a lot of minorities in law enforcement. Now, it definitely doesn't. It's not the majority of law enforcement, I will tell you that. But
no, not
oftentimes the narrative almost makes it seem like there's only white officers that are out there doing this job, and every time there's a use of force, it comes down to race. And like AJ just said, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. Like, let me be clear in that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but to say that everything is racist is not a true statement. And the other thing on that is, here, the other funny part about that, and just to go back to why things are sometimes popular to do. Let's take Trayvon Martin for a situation.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about that Trayvon Martin situation, there are more people that have classified that Trayvon Martin situation and lumped it right on in with police brutality. Which, if you think about it,
we had nothing to do with it.
We had nothing to do with that. Law enforcement had nothing to do with the Trayvon Martin situation. But I literally watched the video a couple weeks ago, and it had some images or symbolism in there from Trayvon Martin, and I'm like, we had nothing to do with Trayvon Martin. That was just a random.
Block watch.
We had that was a random citizen, a white citizen that took the life of an African American, but yet it got lumped in there with police brutality. And so what I don't understand is, and that just goes back to prove my point that sometimes it's just popular to just say that everything is police brutality and everything is fueled by racism, and it's not. Like, we have to, going back to my statement that I made at the beginning of this podcast, is that as a black man in America, I am able to accomplish a lot. I received the Officer of the Year award at my department 2 years ago, and I can guarantee you that they didn't give me that award because they felt sympathy for a black man that's never received the Officer of the Year award, or minority. They gave me that because I was able to earn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have right now, I'm contracted to do multiple presentations, host multiple after-school programs, be able to bring E.T. and Gordon Graham and host a huge conference, not because somebody felt sympathy because I'm black. It's because I was able to go out there, put in the work, and accomplish the things that needed to be done because I live in a country that allows me to do it. So we can't always use the excuse that things are fueled and geared by racism, because I'm living proof that it doesn't. Now, that doesn't go to say that I haven't been, harassed or discriminated against. I have personally been discriminated against. Personally. I have personally been harassed before. But I never utilize those things to say, you know what, oh, now I can't go out and accomplish this because they're always going to hold me down. They don't want to see me win. If anything, like E.T. said, it fuels my fire to want to win even more. I think I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk yesterday. He was saying, I love when people tell me no. He was like, I love watching losers play because I got to give you this quote. He said, I am driven more by the process and not by the trophies.
Yeah, that's it.
Let me say that again.
Let
me say that again. Like, he is driven more by the process and not by the trophies. And so when people tell me no, or when people want to tell me it's because of racism, nah, baby, I'm driven by the process, baby. I'm driven by the process because I'm going to prove you wrong during this process. I don't care about that Officer of the Year award because to me, it's just something else I put on a shelf that's going to get dusty. I care about the process more, and throughout the process, I'm going to change lives through this process. So I'm more in love with the process than I am that trophy that stands on my mantle downstairs.
Bruh, that's exactly it, bro. Like, my wife, all the time, like, something will happen, like I'll be given an award or I'll be recognized for something, and she'll be so excited, like, oh my goodness, babe, congratulations, blah blah blah. And I'm just like, oh, thank you. She's like, well, why aren't you excited? And I'm just like, I'm focusing on the next process already. Like, I'm focusing on the next grind. I'm focusing on the next, like, avenue, the next venue I'm gonna chase, like the next goal. Like, I already got this. Like, I don't need to celebrate. Like, I done did what I had to do. I done got my stripes, my scars or whatever. Like, let's go. And she gets so frustrated, like, oh, babe, just celebrate. And I'm like, nah, I ain't got time for that. Like, I'm focusing on a new direction now. So yeah, that's exactly it, man. Like CJ, we get off topic,
like CJ and ET and them always say on their podcast when they go ham on some of the, their viewers and subscribers. Billy, we need to get some podcast insurance, bro, because we're gonna probably lose some listeners because, we need to call it how it is, man. This podcast was founded on transparency, so I gotta tell it how it is. And
For sure.
like I said, like I was the number one guy that did not like cops. And there's still some cops out there that I just don't get down with like that. But again, I go back to this. If I'm like I always say, if I'm gonna call a spade, I gotta call it. Like, we can't always be fueled and say that everything is driven by racism. We gotta stop buying into these narratives. Like, I'm living proof, AJ's living proof, ET's living proof that you can go out there and be successful and do what you want to do and go against the norm. That's not to say that you're not gonna face challenges, but even white people face challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my point is like, everybody in life is gonna face a challenge. So what it comes down to is, how do you respond to that challenge? You know what I mean? And so stop, feeding into this false narrative that everything is about race, and because of race I can't succeed. Because of race, I'm afraid to go out and I'm afraid to get killed. How about we address the fact of stop doing criminal stuff and you won't get killed? You know what I mean?
Listen,
again,
man.
Get this podcast insurance ready, because we're gonna lose some listeners. My point is and I gotta go to this, is like, if we're gonna call it how it is, we gotta call it how it is. How come we can't address the criminality that exists in our country, but yet we want to exist all this police brutality. I don't mind addressing police brutality. I don't mind addressing that. But if we're going to address police brutality, we better be equally willing to address the criminality that exists in our country. When we're out there promoting stuff on World Star Hip Hop, you know, some of these other social media accounts where people are just acting reckless and in a disarray and beating up each other, killing each other, you know, watching people die in their car as they overdose. When we're willing to support that stuff, then unless you're ready to start supporting that stuff, then stop bashing cops for doing what they do when you're not willing to address those other things.
Yes, 100%. And once again, get that insurance ready. If you're listening to this and that is you, this is my message to you. Stop crying. Like, thank God the slaves back in the day didn't cry and then not do anything about it, right? Like, if you gonna cry, puff your chest up and do something about it. Like, there's so many people in today's society who's like, oh my goodness, like, there's racism alive and there's this and this. So what? What you gonna do? What are you going to do about it? You going to sit here and you going to cry about it? You going to be a victim, or you going to toughen up and you going to push through and you going to make your dreams become a reality? Like, I mean, we have E.T. is the #1 motivational speaker in the world, and he is a black man in America. Ryan Tillman, Mr. BBU himself, is killing the game in California. Just put together a crazy conference that's going to change the entire world, if you ask me. And that's not me just saying it to say it. Like, I truly believe that. And he is an African-American male in America, right? Like, look at all the famous people throughout history. Like, thank God Martin Luther King didn't have that mentality. Oh, racism is alive. I can't do this. I can't do that. Do something. Like, stop complaining to me about your issues and start doing something about it. Like I have a one, I don't even know how to say this, like a one-time rule when it comes to this, right? Like, if you want to call me up and if you want to get something off your chest and if you want to cry with me or cry on my shoulder about something you're going through, do it. But the second time you call me, it better be a completely different conversation, right? I could call you up right now and be like, Ryan, man, look, like, my dad is a crackhead. He can't read or write. He never graduated high school. He used to beat me. He used to sexually assault my mom. And I could go on and on and on about this. But guess what? You're not going to hear me complain about that 2 times. You're not. Because now I'm busy focusing on, you know what? I'm never going to be this. I learned everything what not to do by my dad, right? Like, that's how you got to look at it. Ryan, it took me 5 years to graduate high school. You know, people told me my whole life I couldn't do this. I talk too ghetto. They want me to fail. You never going to hear me say this twice because I'm too busy focusing on how I could get through this. Like, stop complaining and start doing.
Man.
And if you leaving this podcast, listen, no hard feelings. No harm, no foul. I wish you the best of luck, but you have to hear this. Like reality is a hard pill to swallow, and we're so passionate about this. We have a whole topic we got to talk about on this podcast, and we're trying to drill this into you right now because we've pushed through so much negativity and so much crap in our lives to get where we're at. And if we didn't do it sitting in a room crying or on the internet typing up our feelings, like, you have to realize, like, that's life. Like, there's going to be people who want you to fail and who don't want to see you succeed and who don't want you to do better than what they're doing. What you gonna do about it?
Man, the last point that I want to make, because AJ, man, you hit it right on the head. The last point I want to make is this. You know, people say, like, oh, you know, people don't like the way I talk. I can't be myself. You can't be yourself in America. I can't be myself when you go to a job. Like AJ said, go out and do something about it. And this is my point that I want to prove. Last week, we held a conference. And like I told you, the people that were in attendance were people that work for the government entities, work for corporate America. We had chiefs of police, city officials, superintendents, city managers, you name it. Anybody and everybody that holds some type of weight within our government or city entities, mayors. I mean, we had anybody and everybody there. I call them the movers and the shakers. They were all in the building. And typically, what you would see is anybody that gets on stage is going to probably be in a suit or a polo because they have to fit the mold that they believe that's been created throughout society, that this is how I need to dress and talk. The greatest thing about America is you can go out there, create an organization how you want to create it, and be the person you want to be. And when I stood up on that stage, I stood up there with my dry-fitted shirt and my J's on my feet, and I didn't change who I was at all. You can go out there and be the person you want to be in America and not have to change for anybody, but you got to go out there and grind to get it. And a lot of times we have people out there that are not willing to put in the grind to go out there and make that happen for themselves. Like, you need to
That's
be able to
exactly
grind
it.
for yourself. You can't just get up on a stage with all the movers and shakers and be able to do something like that just by whim. You got to go out there and grind to
Yep.
get it. You have to be out there. You have to be
Yep.
willing to stay up late. You got to be willing to wake up early. You got to be willing to do the things
Yep.
that people aren't willing to do in order to earn that. You have to earn that. It's
Yeah.
not by whim that ET
Yeah.
can just show up in a baseball hat with some shorts on and talk to the biggest movers and the shakers in the room and then be captivated by the words that come out of his mouth. That ain't by chance.
Exactly.
My man had to earn
Exactly.
that. So stop crying. Stop saying, hey, it's because of my race. Hey, it's because of my accent. Hey, it's because I live in the hood. No, you can do anything you want to do. You may have to grind a little extra harder, but you can go out there and do it. Like I just
Right.
heard on the podcast yesterday. Go out there and be a savage. You got to be a savage.
That's it.
Be a
That's
savage.
it. That is
like, you got
exactly
to be
it.
able to do it the right way. Like, stop trying to
Yep.
go out there and take shortcuts. The reason there's a lot of criminality that exists is because we want to take shortcuts. We think that
Yep.
selling dope is going to get me
100%.
to where I want to be faster because it's a shortcut.
Right. Right. Easy.
So,
you want easy money. You want quick and
We
easy
want
money.
easy money, but it don't work like that. You talk to majority of successful people out there. Even Gary Vaynerchuk is another one. I was listening to his stuff yesterday. That dude, man, he started at the bottom. He started working at a little liquor store. But my man was always had that grind in him. E.T., I mean, the list goes on. So that's why I tell you, find mentors in your life, whoever it may be, but you got to understand the grind. You got to understand that everything, even if you think it's it's because I'm being discriminated, it's because of racism, who cares? Who cares?
Right.
And I know what people are
Hey,
going to
what's-
say.
what's-
What people are going to say is, oh, well, because of my skin color, I'm afraid to go outside because these cops can kill me. Like, no, I get it. Like, I understand what you're trying to say. Like, I understand that you don't know who you're going to deal with. But if you just comply, it's simple. It is, like, I don't know how simple it can get. If you can just go out there and comply with some instructions that are given to you, I am 99.9% sure that you will make it through that traffic stop. Point blank.
Yeah.
And if that guy
absolutely.
treats you like dirt, if he cusses you out, if he, says he's going to rape your mom and rape your kids, you know what? The most important thing you can do is survive. So make sure you comply with whatever he has to say. For whatever reason, we like to argue with people. I get it. Certain people shouldn't talk to you a certain way. Certain people shouldn't disrespect you.
Mm-hmm.
I understand all that. But it's also more important that you come home to your family and that you live that day, as opposed to arguing and getting killed because you chose to argue with a police officer and he didn't know whether or not you were a threat or not. He didn't know whether or not you had a gun in your pocket, and therefore you end up getting shot, and now you can't come home to your family because you felt it was more important for you to argue at the time to stop instead of just saying, you know what, I'll argue later when I go to court.
Literally just had this conversation with a kid last night, dude. Last night I had a conversation with this kid. He got jumped. We show up on the scene and his mom is there and his mom is in tears. And I'm like, man, like your boy is okay. And she's like, I'm not crying because he got jumped. I'm crying because I know what his stupid self is going to do the moment you leave. She was like, I wish somebody could have a talk with him. So I pulled homie aside and I said, hey man, I said, I want you to understand something. I go, you can make one of two decisions the moment I leave here. And I'm going to tell you how both of them are going to play out. The first decision is you could make is you could go back, you could call your homeboys up, you could go back up there and you could jump them, or you could shoot their house up or whatever, and you already know where that's going to land you. Things are going to escalate until somebody dies, right? Either you're going to die or you're going to kill somebody and you're going to die in prison. That's going to be the direct result of that. The second decision that you can make, which is my suggestion, is you could keep your chin up high, you could puff your chest up, and you could say, oh, y'all going to jump me? Okay, I'm going to make y'all big mad with my success. I'm going to make y'all big mad with my success. And he kind of looked at me like, man, like, who is this dude? And I'm just like, man, like, focus on what you are doing with your life, man. Like, stop letting these distractions get in your path and then take you off of your path. Because that's all they do, right? You stay in your lane. The distraction is nothing but something jumping in your lane saying, hey, look at me. And then they take off running. And next thing you know, you way over here in somebody else's lane. Like, stay in your lane. Like, stay focused on your goals and your dreams and make your dreams become reality. Like, stop letting people distract you in life. And that's all that is. Dope game, distraction. Like, you want to go out here and gangbang? It's a distraction. Like, chase your dreams, man. Get your goals. And I'll say this. I love this saying. Like, I hear Kevin Hart say it all the time. I heard it before that. I'm not sure where they got it, but everybody want to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die to get there. Like you have to realize like everybody want to be successful. Everybody want to be a millionaire. Everybody wants financial freedom. Like everybody wants to go to heaven, right? But you don't want to go through the hell you have to get there. Like you gonna have to go through the trenches. You gonna have to pick yourself up every single time that you fall. And yes, there's racism. Deal with it. Deal with it. And I'm talking about really deal with it.
Yep. So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this before we start the podcast, because so check this out. I'm going to get rid of this excuse right now that I understand everything that you're saying, Ryan, but why I'm upset is because there's nobody that's holding these officers accountable. I'm holding these officers accountable. AJ's holding these officers accountable. We are holding these officers accountable. There are people out there that are holding officers accountable right now. And you know what, the way we're holding these officers accountable? By having conferences, by getting out, by talking to people, by exposing some of the bad stuff. So we are going to do that.
Right.
But now that we're going to do that, now I need you to start holding people accountable for their own actions. You see somebody acting a fool, you see somebody doing all this criminality, start holding them accountable. Because now that I'm holding officers accountable, now I can hold you accountable and say, what are you going to do in your community to hold the other members of the community accountable? You know what I mean? So I think we can start the podcast now. My bad, y'all, but I got on a rant. Where are we at, Bill? We probably had like an hour. Hey guys, so we were gonna talk about the body cameras, but I mean this conversation was I think it was way more needed than you know, we tend to go off on squirrels, you know, stuff like that. But you know, it's so true, man. There's just so many different things. There's things that I'm tired of hearing out there, man, and you know, it's frustrating to me. You know, somebody told me yesterday, they were like, Ryan, and he actually was a cool dude. He's somebody that I could tell that does not like police officers. Like, I just flat out could just tell he is not a fan of police. But he supports what we do. And when I had made that post about the active shooters, he was like, you know, he basically said, I got to call you out on this one or blah, blah, blah. I can't remember what it said. And so I sent him a voice note and told him, you know, the extended explanation of what I needed to say. And at the very end of it, he was like, man, I appreciate what you're doing because it's very much needed, but it's also dangerous. Yeah. And I've been told this before, man. He was like, what you're doing is dangerous. It's courageous work. And I don't really buy too much into it from the standpoint of if I focus on the danger behind it, then it's going to get me off my faith walk with God. You know, I have faith that God is going to keep me on track. You know, like I got to focus that God is going to keep me on track to do what I got to do, and as I do that, I can't have fear. You know what I mean? So fear is just false evidence appearing real. You know what I mean? So I gotta stay, you know, in line with what I do, and but it is a reality to think that, and that's why, and I think that's why I can stand here on this podcast today and confidently say, like, look, like, no, I got to start holding some other people accountable, because we've always liked to use the excuse, well, nobody's holding police officers accountable, nobody's doing this. Well, you guys know my heart enough to know that I'm not afraid to call out a bad cop. I'm not afraid to do it. Sometimes it may take me longer than usual just because I got to do research on certain things, but I'm not afraid to call a spade a spade. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. And so now that you actually got people out there trying to go to bat for you as a community, you also have to be accountable to the community. You have to be we have to stop this, you know, this perpetuating all this criminality in our society right now. It's terrible, man. It's disgusting when you watch. Like, how are we able to get on Instagram right now and see graphic videos of people just getting killed in armed robberies or, you know, thefts, burglaries, and just watch it and just not be and not even just and just feel like don't even feel anything. Like, you almost are just like just emotionless about it. Like, that's scary to me. Like, the mere fact that we can watch that stuff and not be affected by it, like, where have we come as a society? So we have to draw the line and say, you know what? Like, the last thing I'm going to say is on this, and then we're going to end this podcast, is we're so quick to want to go to bat and say these officers reacted totally wrong in this situation in regards to whatever individual out there. But yet we don't want to sit here and stand up and say, well, why was that individual in that situation in the first place? Like, we always want to talk about the reaction instead of dealing with the thing that led that officer there in the first place. Now, every single time, not every situation is like that. So don't get my words twisted, because people love to twist my words on social media. I'm not sitting here and saying that there's certain situation like that situation in Texas a few years, or Oklahoma, wherever it's at, where that lady went and killed that guy that was in his home. That should have been prevented. That could have been prevented. That was ridiculous. If you ask me, it should have never happened. But I'm not talking about that situation right now. That situation, I believe, was wrong. I'm talking about the situations where you have somebody that's doing something they shouldn't be doing, police respond out, and that person either gets hurt really, really bad or he ends up dead. How come we're not addressing the actions of that person, of what he was doing, as opposed to being so quick to address the response of the officer? That's what my issues are. Is like, we gotta start. If we're gonna do, I don't mind. If we're gonna, let's call them both out. How about we just start doing that? Like, how about you call the officer's actions out, but you also call the criminal's actions out as well? Like, that criminal shouldn't have been doing that. He shouldn't have been selling dope. It's on him. He put himself in that situation. But on the same token, that officer shouldn't have responded the way he did. He either overreacted or he shouldn't have shot that dude. Like, let's at least address both, but stop addressing one side of it.
Right. Absolutely. And for the officers listening to this, this ain't a freebie, right? Like, you still have to understand, like, there are still officers out there doing crazy stuff. So I don't want you to hear this podcast and just automatically think like, yeah, we don't do no wrong, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's still two sides to the story, and we got to call a spade, but continue to do your job and continue to do your job flawlessly. And there's going to be naysayers, but push through it.
Oh, don't trip, because law enforcement, you ain't getting off easy on this one either. I'm on a roll today, baby. I don't know if I woke up with the spirit, but check this out. So there's something else that irritated me the other day on Instagram. So I posted a video of this officer that punched this lady that was in handcuffs. And again, because people like to twist my words, I said something specifically that when we took this badge and we took the oath to stand up, and basically we knew what we were getting ourselves into. I was not saying that it's okay for people to spit on officers. It's okay for, people to assault officers. That's not what I was saying. What I was saying is that when we have a person in custody and they are no longer a threat to us, yes, that person could have AIDS or HIV, whatever you want to call it, but that's what spit socks are for. My point in saying what I said that day is that we have to be able to have a level of restraint that goes beyond, somebody spitting in my face, so now I'm gonna punch them in their face, so that way they understand how wrong what they did was wrong. Mm-hmm. The reason that's so important is because if I was that guy, that sergeant who punched that chick in her face and blacked out her eye because she kicked at me, and just so you know, I don't even know if she spit in that officer's face. I don't know. I was just making an assumption. Maybe she spit in his face. But at the end of the day, it still wasn't just that officer's actions were not justified. Because at the end of the day, if I'm that sergeant and I punch that lady in her face, do you think when I come home and I tell my wife, hey, I got fired today because I punched this lady in her face, do you think my wife is going to be okay with that? Yes or no? Probably not. Because now my kids can't survive because I lost my job, because I lost my cool and punched this lady in her face. So the reason I'm upset with that is that you got officers out there saying, well, we shouldn't let people spit in our face. We shouldn't let people do this and that. Like, you're taking things out of context, because as you being a police officer, when you make a statement that says, hey, we shouldn't let people spit in our face, on the heels of a video I just posted where a lady's in handcuffs, it makes it look like to the community that you're okay that this officer just punched this lady in the face. So my point is that watch what you say. I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying that it's okay for people to spit in my face. If you're not in handcuffs and I'm out there trying to do something, you spit in my face, you better believe you're going to have something coming to you so I can get you into custody because you just assaulted a police officer. So don't take my kindness for a weakness. But at the same time, when somebody's in cuffs and they are in custody and they are no longer a physical threat to me, that's when we have to have that level of restraint that exceeds the norm. That's what I'm saying. So officers, you ain't getting off easy on this one as well, because if you believe that it was okay for that sergeant to punch that lady in her face, then you're a part of the problem. Sorry, we need some more podcast insurance, because we probably just lost some followers on that one. But at this point, I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because the things that we're doing, the hosting conferences, bringing everybody together, doing podcasts that's being downloaded in 47 countries, having after-school programs in 5 different high schools that I work at locally, doing motivational speaking to get people out of depression and get people off of substance abuse. I believe that I can start holding you accountable for doing your actions, because what are you doing beyond your 9-to-5 job?
Yeah, that's exactly it. No, that is exactly it. And I'm so sick of, and this is on both ends, right? And I should, or both sides, and I shouldn't say sides because we're in this together, but I'll say sides just for the sake of argument or whatever. But for both sides, I'm so sick of people passionately complaining about issues involving law enforcement in the community and not doing nothing about it. And this goes to officers too. I tell my own coworkers, right? Like, you know, and cops just are notorious for this, you know, like, oh, well, you know, we have targets on our back and this and that and this and that. And it's true. But once again, we're going to flip the script, right? You listen to the podcast up until this point, it's coming back at you. What you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Who's responsible for taking that first step towards bridging this gap? Who? Who's going to do it? If not you, then who? If not now, then when? Stop complaining about it. I'm tired of hearing people complaining. Like, that's my new thing. Like, I'll listen once. I'm here for you, right? You want to cry on my shoulder? You want to bounce ideas off of me? Boom, I'm here. But the second conversation we have better be different. I'm tired of officers coming up to me too. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, this community, they just don't support us, blah, 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 blah. Well, what you doing to make it better? What you doing to help build that trust? Stop complaining to me. Stop complaining to me. I'm solution based. Come to me with solutions and let me help you help the situation out. Surround yourself with people like that and watch your whole world change. Watch the whole world change. I'm telling you, man, it's more than life than this negativity that we're becoming victims of social media. Yep. That's exactly what it is. We turn on social. I just watched this documentary on Netflix about social media. It's got me all messed up in the head. But we're becoming victims of social media. Like, we like the negativity. Like, we like clicking on something. We like seeing fights. We like seeing people go to jail. We like seeing people abuse their powers. Like, and we surround ourselves by so much of this negativity that's just what we spew out into the world by accident, because that's what all we're pouring into our bodies. Surround yourself by positive people who are doing something in the world, and watch your whole world change.
Man, I don't think we've ever gone in as hard as we've gone in on this podcast.
Man. And listen, I'm going to say this. I'm gonna say this. I know there's somebody in their feelings right now. If you haven't turned the podcast off already, you might be on the fence, like, they losing me right now. You the one who need to hear this. Swallow your pride. Put your pride aside. Just like I told that kid, like, you got one or two options you could make right now. You need to be hearing this. You could turn the podcast off and you could never listen to a message like this again, and you could constantly fall into this negative mindset and you're gonna be grumpy for the rest of your life. Or you could hear what we putting down, two people who've been through it, two people who are currently going through it, and two people who are making moves towards making this world a better place, and you could do something about it.
Man,
those are your two options right now.
And so, you know, I still love you. AJ loves you. The Savage over here loves you, but I love you enough to be honest with you. You know what I mean? And I can't be honest with you until I'm honest with myself. And so I've tried to be honest with myself. That's why I try to put myself in everybody's shoes. I put myself in the shoe as the guy that got spit on. And you know what? Yeah, in my mind, I probably want to punch that lady in her face too if she spit on me as well. But again, that's why I say we got to be better than that. And if we're not better than that, then how can we expect the community to hold their own selves accountable to be better than what they are? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you got to realize, like Sir Robert Peel said it the best, as officers, we are a part of the community just as much as we are officers. Yeah. So we got to remember that, guys. So, hey, man, this was a phenomenal podcast. We completely got diverted this morning.
Brought to you by
BBU, the one and only Breaking Barriers United. Shout out to BBU for supporting this podcast and everything that's doing. And hey, there are a lot of good things coming, guys. I can't tell you. Fair or foul, real quick. This was hilarious. Before we got on today, like, my son is in here, right? So he puts on. He likes to, one day he wants to run his own podcast, according to him.
He going to.
So he get on and he put his headphones on and stuff like that. But he be playing around too much. I'm like, hey son, you got to get out. Daddy got to start working. So is it fair or foul that my son walks out of the room? Like, he says it as he's walking away. He don't say it in my face. He says it as he's walking away. He's like, hey, Dad, like, you're not even working, though. You're doing a podcast. So fair or foul, like, my son think I'm just in here playing around on this podcast. He don't think this podcast is work. It is work. So
I'm gonna go fair, just because he sees like how much fun we have with this. Like, and that's fair. That's fair. He sees it. He's picking up on the energy. He's like, this can't be work, Dad. This, yeah, you kicking it with Uncle AJ right now. This ain't work.
Hey, but you know what though? It goes back to my motivation at the beginning of this podcast. That's what you call legacy. When your son gets to see you do something that is viewed upon as being work, but it's something that I love, that's legacy. So now my son knows when he gets older, if he ain't having fun doing what he's doing, he needs to do something else. That's what you call legacy. So I'm gonna go fair on that as well, y'all. So hey, thanks again, guys. This is a phenomenal podcast. We will do our body cameras, our topic next week. So sorry for getting diverted on that. Real talk, just to keep y'all transparent at 100. We actually about to record that one right now. So I'm gonna keep y'all 100. I don't like giving y'all all the trade secrets, but I love y'all enough to be honest with y'all. So
Billy had to put us in check.
Billy put us in check. So by the time you guys get the episode about body cameras, you'll either see that one on Monday or you'll see that one next week. So we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.